Chapter 313. The judge didn't know how to react. But Xiao Ming had already walked down the arena. He knew that Emma was Mr. Mo's woman. He went up the arena to fight for a spot in the world society, not to steal the limelight from Mr. Mo's woman. So, after defeating everyone else, he naturally admitted defeat. Seeing this, the judge could only smile bitterly. Since Xiao Ming from the world society has admitted defeat, the champion of this competition is Ms. Emma from the world society. The audience was speechless. Damn, this is what you're showing me? I've already taken off my socks. They felt like they had been F***ed. However, they were able to figure it out. After all, these two people were from the World Society. The World Society had successfully gotten the 100th place and would participate in the competition of the top 100 forces later. That was the main event. If they consumed too much energy now, it would be extremely disadvantageous for them in the competition later. At this moment, the judge reported the results of the competition. The 10 big shots still didn't know what kind of force the World Society was from the background data. But since it had already come to this, they could only announce the 100th place of all the forces in Yuzhou according to the results of the competition. As for the details of the World Society, they would have to wait until the martial arts competition was over to investigate in detail. Soon, one of the big shots announced in a clear voice. The two disciples from the World Society won the first 2 places in the competition. The World Society will be the champion of this competition. According to the usual practice, they naturally became one of the top 100 powers in Yuzhou and were ranked at the 100th position. The staff member felt dizzy when he heard the big shot's announcement. He had only prepared a case for the 2 people to avoid too much trouble. He thought that they would be eliminated soon after the first round. He didn't expect that the 2 of them would win the championship directly. What a joke! This time they were really done for. At the same time, after the big shot's announcement, there was sparse applause in the arena. The World Society disciples behind Emosher were all grinning from ear to ear. It had been less than half a year since their base came to this world. And in this short period of time, the strength of their base had reached the level of the top 100 forces in Yuzhou. This was far beyond their expectations. Emosher was indifferent to this. A mere rank of 100 was not his goal at all. His goal was to become the champion of this year's Martial Battle Assembly. The big shot continued. Rest for half an hour. In half an hour, the martial arts competition will begin. The rules of the competition are that the top 100 forces will each send 10 disciples to participate in the competition. In the end, whichever faction had more disciples in the top 10 would be ranked higher. This faction will obtain first place in this martial arts assembly. Basically, everyone who came here had a certain understanding of these rules. That big shot said again. Next, all the top 100 forces will submit the names of their 10 disciples to the organizing committee. We will draw lots to compete. Emosher looked at the 11 desolate hunters behind him. Then he said to the little monk, "Submit their names to the higher-ups." The small monk immediately turned on his multifunctional watch and operated it. But soon Emosher spoke again. "Forget it, little Ming doesn't need to go first. Let me do it." These 10 people were all desolate hunters. Logically speaking, they should be in the bag. After all, in every faction, desolate hunters were treasures. The purpose of a desolate hunter was to guard the faction so that the enemy would not dare to underestimate them. They were not used to compete in the martial arts assembly. After all, there were always accidents and deaths in a competition. If their desolate hunters were to die in a competition, it would not be worth it. Therefore, in the previous years, although desolate hunters would occasionally appear, the number was very small. However, Emosher was still a little worried. This year's competition was different from previous years. The rewards for this year's competition were too generous. It was inevitable that some factions would be tempted and send out their desolate hunters. This was especially true for the large forces that were ranked at the top. They would often send out a few or even a dozen desolate hunters. What if they really sent out a few desolate hunters for the sake of the rewards? After all, the desolate hunters that he had brought along had just been promoted to level 1 not long ago. Compared to them, they would not have any advantage at all. Therefore, Mo Shi decided to participate in the competition himself. With his current strength, he might not be able to crush a level 1 Desolate Hunter, but if it was a battle of attrition, he would still have a certain advantage. Of course, if he were to face a level 2 Desolate Hunter, he was afraid that he could only run away. However, it was still better than his own level 1 Desolate Hunter being crushed. The small monk nodded. He changed Xiao Ming's name to Mo Shi's and submitted it. Then, he lowered his head and continued to play the game. The small monk was not interested in the martial arts assembly. Although he had always been a person who liked to fight, he liked the kind of battles that would really see blood, where it was either one of them dying or the other dying. He did not like this kind of competition in the arena. At the same time, the 10 big shots looked at the name lists submitted by the various factions. Finally, their eyes fell on the name list of the World Society. After all, they had some understanding of the other factions. As for the people on the name list, most of them had some understanding. However, the World Society was too unfamiliar. They had just used Chengdu and Soju to search for it on the internet. There was no World Society at all. In other words, this faction was very likely to have been established in the past 1 or 2 days. As for the names on the name list, they were even more unfamiliar with them. In the end, they could only give up on the research and wait until the end of the martial arts assembly to investigate. Finally, half an hour had passed. The results of the draw were out. In the first round, 1,000 people would have to fight 500 battles. Because of the limited space, the first round was divided into 10 groups of battles. Mo Shi looked at the 3D image floating above the arena, projecting the name list. His opponent was a person called Duanmu Yi from the 88th ranked Duanmu family. He turned his head to look at the Duanmu family. The 10 contestants from the Duanmu family were sitting in the second row of the family. The blood dragon's eye was activated, and the levels of these people quickly appeared. They were all level 8 Desolate Hunters and above. The strongest one was a level 10 Desolate Hunter. He then turned his head to look at the contestants from the other factions. Their levels were almost all level 8 Desolate Hunters and above. During this period, Desolate Hunters would appear from time to time. Among all the contestants, the strongest one was a level 2 Desolate Hunter. Mo Shi frowned slightly. There was actually a level 2 Desolate Hunter. These factions simply did not care about martial ethics. Chapter 3:14. A level 2 Desolate Hunter was a precious fighting force in any force. Usually, they were placed in the force and provided with good food and drinks. But this force directly took them out to participate in the martial arts tournament. How shameless could they be? They really didn't care about martial ethics. But on second thought, he didn't seem to be a good person either. In other forces, even if there were Desolate Hunters, most of them would only send one. At most, there would only be 2 Desolate Hunters. His World Society had sent out 9 Desolate Hunters at one time. This lineup was enough to crush them. If one had to say that they didn't care about martial ethics, then he was even more so than them. Thinking of this, Mo Shi felt much better. This was more like it. After seeing the strength of these contestants, Mo Shi had an idea. But with his cautiousness, he didn't let his guard down. What if someone among these people had a powerful trump card? From what he knew, there were basically no rules in the tournament. As long as the opponent was beaten out of the arena, or had no power to fight back or admitted defeat, it was considered a victory. There was no stopping here. It was a tournament, so casualties were inevitable. Some sects and forces even had grudges with each other. In order to avoid heavy losses in large-scale fights, they would use the martial arts tournament as an opportunity to settle their disputes in the arena. In that case, it was a matter of life and death. Soon, the first batch of 100 contestants had entered the arena. Among them were 2 people from the World Society. As the referee said, "Begin!" Bang bang, 2 of the hunters were sent flying away. Everyone present was stunned. So fast! Which 2 forces sent out such strong contestants? After being stunned for a moment, the referee compared the information of the 2 contestants. Finally, he announced, Arena number 3, World Society, Wang Xiaoming wins. Arena number 7, World Society, Lord Long wins. The audience immediately started discussing. It's the World Society again. Damn. The people from the World Society are so strong. That Xiaoming from the World Society was very strong, and this Xiaoming is also ridiculously strong. Lord Long is also very awesome. These disciples, who weren't very strong, only knew that these three people were very strong. However, the bigwigs on the rostrum were slightly surprised. Just now, Xiaoming was a desolate hunter. Now, these two have also become desolate hunters. The World Society has revealed all of their trump cards. To be honest, as a guild that has just been promoted to the top 100, it is indeed surprising that they have 3 desolate hunters. It was just that, for the sake of a single battle, they had exposed all of their strength. This kind of method was still a bit too childish. If other forces want to deal with them in the future, it will be much easier. After all, they're still a very young guild. Just treat it as tuition. Next, there were 3 people from the World Society in the second batch of matches. During the battle, they would still send their opponents flying out of the arena with a single punch. The referee was stunned again. After comparing the information, he said in surprise, Arena number 7, World Gathering, Shi Dagong wins. Battle Arena number 10, World Gathering, by Zifeng wins. Arena number 3, World Club, Zhao Zhao wins. The entire spectator stand was in an uproar. F***CK. Are you kidding me? The World Society sent out 5 people, and all 5 of them killed their opponents in an instant. My goodness, the World Society is going to become popular. This won't do. I have to check the background of the World Society. Many people turned on their multifunction watches and started to search for information on the World Society using Chengdu or Sohu. In the end, they did not find anything. Nothing? Could it be a newly established guild? But even if it is a newly established guild with such powerful strength, we should have heard some rumors. Why can't we find anything? However, the surprise of these people was far from the surprise of the big shots on the rostrum. This was because they could feel from the aura of the 3 people from the World Society that they were all desolate hunters. They originally thought that the 3 desolate hunters were all of the trump cards of the World Society. They did not expect that the 3 of them were actually desolate hunters. 6 desolate hunters. With so many high-end combat strength, the World Society was enough to be ranked in the top 50. As for Commander Lu Shuming, his eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Following which, he shifted his gaze from the World Society disciples to the World Society members. The one sitting in the center should be the leader of the World Society. When he saw the leader, the surprise in his eyes increased. He originally thought that for such a powerful faction, the leader should be at least a middle-aged man. He did not expect that the leader would look like a young man in his 20s. This young man was not simple. He turned his head and said to a division commander behind him, "Check the World Society. Investigate this World Society. Before tonight, I want all the information about them." The division commander quickly nodded and replied, "Yes." Following that, a few other factions also sent out desolate hunter contestants. The faction with the most number of desolate hunters was ranked 11th. They sent out 2 desolate hunters to participate in the competition, intending to rely on this to see if they could squeeze into the top 10. The other factions treated the desolate hunters like treasures and did not show them at all. Among all the factions, the most shocking was still the Old World Society. The next 4 contestants from the World Society all killed their opponents with a single punch. F***CK. The World Society is simply too powerful. Damn, even I want to join the World Society after seeing this. Yeah, I'm also afraid of being beaten to death by my master. Otherwise, I would have abandoned the dark and joined the light. Among them, the ones who were the most shocked were still the big shots on the rostrum. 9 desolate hunters. Including the one from the small competition, the World Society has sent out 10 of them this time. Could it be that the dozen or so people that came are all desolate hunters? It seems that we really have to re-examine the World Society. With such high-end combat strength, it won't be a problem for them to get into the top 40. While they were shocked, all the big shots looked in the direction of the World Society. They saw that, after the competition, the desolate hunters had obediently returned to their leader's side. The strength of these gang members was already so strong. In order to make these gang members obedient, how strong must their gang leader be? A level 2 desolate hunter? Or a level 3 or level 4? If they had really reached level 4, then the world society would have no problem getting into the top 10, let alone the top 40. Chapter 3:15. On the rostrum beside the arena, all the big shots, including the military big shot Lu Shuming, were watching. They were all looking at Emosher, who was in the center position of world society. They were all secretly guessing the strength of this gang leader. To be able to convince these desolate hunters, this gang leader was definitely at least a level 2 desolate hunter. They were even secretly guessing that this world society's strength could be ranked in the top 10. Finally, during the 10th round of the first round, Emosher appeared. His luck was pretty good. His opponent was a level 8 desolate hunter. At this time, almost everyone's eyes fell on Emosher, who was in the ring. Look! Look! The gang leader of world society is here. His opponent is probably in trouble. The gang leader of world society is a desolate hunter. That goes without saying. Let's just watch the show. The big shots on the rostrum also fixed their eyes on Emosher. They wanted to see what level this desolate hunter was at. Emosher's opponent was a burly man who looked very rough. He was the kind of person who wouldn't give up until all hope was gone. Other people said that this world society gang leader was a desolate hunter and was very powerful. However, he didn't believe it. Without seeing it with his own eyes, he didn't believe that such a young guy was a desolate hunter. Emosher looked at this rough and burly man, but his face remained calm and unperturbed. Until the referee said, "Begin!" The burly man roared, "HHH." Then, his right arm started to condense a genetic weapon. Not only genetic weapon, but he also wanted to use energy weapon. He wanted to KO this kid in one move, just when his genetic weapon had just formed and his energy weapon had yet to form. Emosher suddenly disappeared. That burly man was slightly stunned. The next moment, Emosher appeared behind him. He punched out with his right fist. Bang! That burly man was caught off guard and his whole body was thrown more than 100 meters forward. He fell out of the arena. That burly man was instantly furious. Damn! This was a sneak attack. Couldn't they have fought fair and square? What kind of man was a sneak attack? However, the rule was that as long as he was thrown out of the arena, he would lose. Although he was unwilling, he couldn't do anything. Whoosh! The scene was once again in an uproar. Another move! Do the people of the World Club only know one move? Isn't the speed of the World Society's Gang Master too terrifying? I didn't even see it clearly. Not only is it fast, but its strength is also extraordinary. He is definitely a desolate hunter. However, the desolate hunters at the scene all revealed looks of surprise at this moment. This was because they could feel that the aura that Emosher had exuded during the battle was not that of a desolate hunter. Instead, they were scavengers. He was just a level 5 hunter. They had previously guessed that this gang leader might be a level 2, level 3, or even level 4 desolate hunter. As a result, he did not expect that his realm was only a level 5 hunter. The contrast between before and after was too great, making it hard for people to believe. On the rostrum, the big shots exchanged glances. All of them were a little surprised. The leader of the World Society is a level 5 scavenger? A level 5 hunter can make a group of hunters follow him blindly? I'm afraid it's because of his powerful ability to fight above his level. He is a level 5 hunter, but he can kill a level 8 hunter with one punch. It's really rare to see someone who can fight above his level. Yes, the stronger you are, the more difficult it is to fight above your level. However, he can fight above his level and easily kill his opponent. He can be called a peerless genius. Even in the history books, it's rare to see such a genius. Commander Lu Shuming finally spoke. He didn't use energy or telekinesis. As soon as he said this, all the big shots were stunned. Then, the shock on their faces was several times more than before. He didn't use energy. He didn't use telekinesis either. This just physical strength? This kid is too strong. Using pure physical strength to kill an opponent above his level. It's rare. It's not just rare. Even if you flip through the history books, you can't find an example of someone who defeated an opponent with pure physical strength without using energy or telekinesis. Even Emperor Ming, who founded the new era of our Flaming Dawn continent, didn't do it. The few big shots had reason to be amazed. Mo Shi's performance was really too abnormal. These people had never seen or even heard of such a performance in the past. At this time, the big shots were already secretly guessing. If he could kill an opponent above his level without using energy, then how many levels could he surpass if he used energy? Mo Shi, on the other hand, felt that this was quite normal. He returned to his position and felt the surging energy in his body. Although he didn't use energy in the punch just now, the energy in his body seemed to have begun to surge. Obviously, he was about to break through. Could it be that he would be able to break through this time without the dragon's blood? In fact, it was as Mo Shi thought, although his dragon blood hadn't reached the limit of what his body could bear. In fact, it wasn't too far away, and the battle just now made the energy in his body surge. This was a sign that his body longed for a breakthrough. When other people experienced this feeling during their cultivation, it meant that they had reached the critical point of a breakthrough. As long as there was another opportunity, they would be able to break through naturally. Mo Shi had been relying on the system to break through, and this time, it was the first time he felt the critical point of a breakthrough without relying on the system. This made him secretly happy. It seemed that this martial arts tournament was his opportunity to break through. Soon, the results of the first round were announced. The other forces basically all had people eliminated. Only the top 10 forces basically sent out level 10 hunters. And they were all level 10 hunters who had stayed for a long time, looking for an opportunity to break through. Therefore, no one from these forces was eliminated. Other than the top 10 forces, the other force that didn't have anyone eliminated was the World Society. This was obviously beyond everyone's expectations. A force that was still unknown before this morning actually had such powerful strength. Next, in the second round, a hunter from the World Society met a hunter from another force. In the end, he was eliminated by that force. The other 8 people easily eliminated their opponents. Mo Shi's opponent was a level 10 hunter. This time, Mo Shi finally used some of his energy. Actually, he could have used his fist with energy to finish off that guy. But in order to not attract too much attention, he condensed a genetic martial art and then used it to blast that guy out of the arena. At this moment, the entire spectator stand was suddenly filled with noise. Chapter 3:16. When Mo Shi defeated his opponent, who was 5 levels higher than him, he sent his opponent flying. The crowd was in an uproar. 50% of the audience raised their hands in the air, screaming, shouting, and clapping. Awesome! He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. Has there ever been someone who defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant? One of a kind, absolutely one of a kind. Heaven-defying, genius, pervert, demon. No words are enough to describe the World Society's leader. Don't stop me. I want to marry him. I want to have children with him. At the same time, on the platform beside the arena, all the bigwigs were also shocked. He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. If he grows up, his future will be limitless. Everyone, think about it, if he becomes a level 1 desolate hunter, then we... At this point, the boss did not continue. But the other bosses knew what he meant. If the World Society's leader were to become a level 1 desolate hunter one day, then these big shots wouldn't be his match at all. Lu Shuming was considering whether the World Society could be incorporated into the military's forces. If that was the case, the World Society would be able to obtain training resources provided by the military. And the military would also be able to obtain the combat power of the World Society's desolate hunters. This was a win-win situation for both sides. If the World Society's leader grew up, he would definitely be a boss. and he would be an existence that far surpassed the other 10 bosses. If the military were to be on good terms with such a person, there would be many benefits and no harm. In the eyes of the World Society members behind Mo. These people's astonishment was nothing out of the ordinary. Too many strange things had happened to their leader, and they were already used to it. Next, the third round of the competition. 2 of the World Society's desolate hunters met other factions' desolate hunters. One of them won and one lost, and one of them was eliminated. As for Mo., his opponent was a level 10 desolate hunter from one of the top 10 factions. Mo. Still did not use his energy weapon. He only used his genetic weapon and sent that person flying out of the arena with a punch. Another round of thunderous applause and cheers rang out one after another. After 3 rounds, there were only 125 contestants left. Among these contestants, World Society accounted for 8 of them. These contestants were either level 10 hunters or level 1 hunters. Those below level 10 had basically been eliminated. Only Mo. Was a level 5 hunter, and he could be called an outlier among the contestants. After 3 rounds of battle, the competition for the day ended here. The remaining rounds would be held tomorrow. Mo. Led the World Club members away from the battle arena and found a more remote and quiet place to rest. Mo. Gave each of the desolate hunters a bottle of recovery medicine. Although the current recovery potion was not very effective for desolate hunters, it was still very effective. However, it would also allow them to recover to their peak state within 2 hours. As for Mo. Himself, he did not expend much energy today. With his physique, even without the use of recovery potions, he would be able to fully recover in a short period of time. The sun had set, and the temperature at Huichun Peak was much lower than during the day. For cultivators like Mo., this was naturally not a problem. What Mo. Was worried about was Happy. He asked with concern, "Happy, are you cold? If you are, put on a few more layers of clothes." Happy shook her head. "I'm not cold." As a god's oracle, even if she couldn't activate her abilities, the cold wouldn't affect her too much. Happy gestured to Mo. "Brother Mo, I think I'm different." Mo. Smiled and rubbed her head. "Tell me, what's different?" Happy gestured and said, "I'm not afraid of the miasma when I follow you up the mountain. Also, my physical strength seems to be much stronger than before. I just checked the temperature on the mountain. It's only about 3 degrees Celsius. However, I don't feel cold even though I'm wearing thin clothes." Mo. Smiled and said, "You didn't really notice this recently, did you?" Happy looked at the stars in the sky and continued gestured. "When I was on Earth, I already noticed that something was wrong. My strength seems to have increased, and my memory seems to have improved. However, it wasn't too obvious back then, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. After coming to the Flaming Land, I seem to have become much stronger in all aspects compared to when I was on Earth." Saying this, Happy was silent for a moment. She continued to gesture with her hand. "Brother Mo, do you think I'm sick?" Mo. Laughed and said, "Of course not. Of course not. It's because..." At this point, he approached Happy and whispered, "You're a god speaker. You're a god speaker." Happy was puzzled. He looked around, then carefully gestured and asked, "A god speaker? What's that?" Mo. Answered, "A god speaker is a god speaker. A god speaker might not appear in hundreds or thousands of years. Even in the current Flaming Land, there are only legends of god speakers. No real god speaker has appeared. You're the first one." As he spoke, Mo. Sent all the information he knew about god speakers to Happy's multifunctional watch. Happy looked at the information about god speakers on the multifunctional watch. After a while, he looked at Mo. In disbelief. He gestured with his hand. "Brother Mo, am I really a god speaker?" She actually knew that Mo. Would not lie to her. However, she really did not dare to believe it. She could not believe that she was such a powerful god speaker. As long as she said the word die, no matter how powerful the enemy was, they would be reduced to ashes. She had even saved the base before. She had always thought that she was a useless person. In order to not let others think that she was too useless, and to not let others think that Mr. Mo's woman was too useless. She had been working hard. She had never thought that she would be a God speaker and save the base like Brother Mo. Sure patted Happy's head again, and there was a gentle smile in his eyes. Don't think too much. You don't have to cultivate or anything. When the base or I need you, your God speaker ability will naturally awaken again. Happy nodded and gestured to Mo. Sure. Brother Mo, Happy is no longer a useless person. While Mo. Sure and Happy were talking, something else was happening on the other side. Some temporary tents had already been set up next to the venue of the competition. In these temporary tents were the leaders of various factions. In the tent of the Undying Village's village chief, a skinny old man in black reported to the village chief. Village chief, we couldn't find any clues about world society. In the tent of the White Lotus School of the Virgin. The White Lotus School of the Virgin sat on the bed, dressed in white. A White Lotus School of the Virgin whispered, Virgin, we couldn't find any clues about world society. The White Lotus School of the Virgin frowned slightly. After a while, she said, Go. Tell the Virgin to work hard in her cultivation. This time we must at least get into the top 8. Chapter 3:17. While the big shots of the other forces were racking their brains to find out all the information about the world society. In the largest tent, Commander Lu Shuming was sitting on the ground, flipping through documents. Even though he came to the martial arts tournament this time, he still brought some important documents with him. At this moment, a division commander strode in. He gave Lu Shuming a standard military salute. He said, Commander, we still haven't found any information about the world society. Lu Shuming withdrew his gaze from the documents and looked at the division commander. Tell me the details. The division commander nodded. Yes, Commander. I've asked our Army's intelligence network to do their best to collect information about the world society and send them the images of several important figures of the world society. But so far, we haven't collected any information. This can only mean one thing. These people have never appeared as the world society before. To put it simply, the name World Society is probably a last-minute name they came up with. Lu Shuming nodded and asked. And? The division commander said. But according to the images of their leader, the woman beside him, and the child, we found records about them. They once went to the second hunting island, and according to the information we got from the Chung family, the Chung family was probably annihilated by them. Lu Shuming narrowed his eyes slightly. To be able to annihilate the entire Chung family, it seems that their forces aren't ordinary. The division commander asked. They annihilated the Chung family. Should we interfere? Lu Shuming shook his head and said, A while ago, the commander had made clear the division of our duties. Our duty as soldiers is to protect the lives and property of the people of Yuzhou, and at the same time to maintain the integrity of the territory. As for the conflicts between the various sects, they're all internal conflicts in Yuzhou, and we'd better not interfere. Avoid excessive consumption. Yes, Commander, the division commander replied. Lu Shuming continued. Come with me to meet the leader of the World Society. The division commander replied. Yes. A moment later, Lu Shuming led the 2 division commanders to the camp of the World Society. When they arrived, the people of the World Society immediately guarded outside Mo. Sure's tent. Mo. Sure also noticed Lu Shuming's arrival, and a smile appeared on his lips. It seemed that his performance had attracted the attention of this big shot. Now that he was here, it was obvious that he had seen his potential, so he took the initiative to befriend him. As part of the military, they had always been dismissive of other forces. Even the top 10 forces had to lower their heads in front of the military. Now that Lu Shuming had taken the initiative to look for him, it seemed like he wanted to express his goodwill. As part of the military, they were actually willing to express goodwill to a newly established world society. As expected, their horizons had long surpassed the other forces. Mo. Sure was very satisfied with this point of the military of Yuzhou province. Of course, being on good terms with the military of Yuzhou province would be of great help to Mo. Sure and the world society. Thinking of this, Mo. Sure immediately went out to greet him. He smiled and said, "So it's Commander Lu. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Lu Shuming also laughed. Gang leader Mo's World Club really shone brightly today. Mo Shi smiled and said, "You're flattering me. I was just lucky." The two exchanged a few pleasantries, and then Mo Shi led Lu Shuming into the tent. Lu Shuming was a soldier, and he liked to be straightforward. This was also to Mo Shi's liking. Therefore, apart from the few pleasantries at the beginning, the two went straight to the point after entering the tent. Lu Shuming said, "Gang leader Mo, do you have any intention of joining the military?" Mo Shi didn't beat around the bush and directly refused. "I've always been used to freedom, so I have no intention of joining the military for the time being." Lu Shuming persuaded, "Mr. Mo, the potential you have is far beyond your imagination, but if you want to fully stimulate your potential, you need a lot of resources. And these resources can be provided to you by the military. So please consider it." Gang leader Mo Shi said, "Thank you for your kindness, Commander Lu, but I haven't decided to join the military for the time being." Lu Shuming was also a person with character. Although he had taken a fancy to a talent like Mo Shi, he wouldn't pester him. A look of regret appeared on his face, and he said, "That's a pity, but I hope we'll have a chance to work together in the future." Mo Shi nodded. "It's our world society's honor to work with the military." Since the negotiation didn't work out, Lu Shuming didn't stay any longer. In less than 10 minutes, he left Mo Shi's tent. At the same time, the news had already spread to the other factions. In the Chamber of Commerce's tent, Commander Lu of the military is meeting with Gang leader Mo of the World Society. It's very likely that Gang leader Mo will latch onto the military's thigh from today onwards. So we have to do something. Get someone to prepare a gift. After the martial arts tournament ends, I'll go see Gang leader Mo immediately. In the Triple Gates tent, Sect Master Lin Yuxiang said, "Now that the World Society has latched onto the military's thigh, they'll grow into a very thick thigh in a very short time. Prepare a gift for me. I'll go see Sect Master Mo first thing tomorrow morning." In the Giant Eagle Gang's tent, "Prepare a gift for me. I'm going to see Sect Master Mo now." A few sects came to the World Society's tent that night, wanting to see Mo Shi. But Mo Shi had always liked peace and quiet. He told Emma to tell them that he still had to participate in the tournament the next day, so he needed to get enough sleep that night. Those factions could only leave resentfully. After sending off those factions, Mo Shi brought Happy into the Dragon's Cave. This was Happy's first time entering the Dragon's Cave, so he was very curious. Mo Shi said to Happy, "This is the safest place. Even if the world outside ends, no one will disturb you here. You can sleep safely here." Happy nodded and gestured with his hands. "Big brother Mo, you should sleep early too." While many factions treated the World Society as a thigh that was about to grow and wanted to latch onto them, there were also some factions that treated the World Society as their greatest enemy. They were here for the reward this time. Originally, they were still a little confident, but now the World Society had sent out 9 desolate hunters at once. There was also a monster who, although not a desolate hunter, could instantly kill an opponent who was 5 ranks higher than him. This filled them with a sense of crisis, especially the 11th faction. This was especially true for the 11th ranked organization. They had originally sent out 2 hunters to participate in this mission. They had sent out 2 desolate hunters, and one of them was even a level 2 desolate hunter. They thought that with such a lineup, they could completely crush the other factions' lineups and win the championship. But they didn't expect that the World Society would appear. The appearance of the World Society greatly reduced their chances of winning the championship. Chapter 318. The 11th ranked faction was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. Once a cultivator reached a certain level, it would be extremely difficult for them to increase their level. At this time, many cultivators would shift their focus to the study of combat techniques and techniques. Thus, many different cultivation factions were born. There were factions that used guns and factions that used blades. There were factions that used bodyguards and factions that used swords. The reason why the Fallen Feather Sword Sect was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect was because they possessed an extremely powerful sword technique. There was a saying, "Wherever the sword aura passes, the ground will be covered in feathers." Thus, it was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. In this martial arts tournament, the Fallen Feather Sword Sect had sent 2 Desolate Hunters to participate. There was even a level 2 Desolate Hunter. This was the strongest battle force in this martial arts tournament. This way, they could display their powerful strength and aim for the top 10 in the top 100 factions tournament. Secondly, they were determined to obtain the rewards of this martial arts tournament. However, the sect master of the Fallen Feather Sword Sect, Luo Chenxiu, was frowning slightly. In front of him were 2 higher-ups of the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. Seeing Luo Chenxiu's worried expression, one of the higher-ups asked, "Sect Master, what are you worried about with our lineup this time?" Luo Chenxiu smiled bitterly and shook his head. The lineup this time is indeed very strong. However, the strength of the world society has far exceeded my expectations. The other higher-up muttered to himself, "Sect Master, our level 2 Desolate Hunter should be the highest level among all the participants. Although the world society is strong, none of them can contend against our level 2 Desolate Hunter." Luo Chenxiu still had a worried expression. "Even so, we can't let our guard down. What if the world society still has a trump card? Therefore, we have to have a backup plan." The 2 higher-ups looked at each other and said, "Sect Master, if we really can't do it, we'll let our level 2 Desolate Hunter use his strongest trump card." Luo Chenxiu was slightly startled when he heard this. It seemed like he couldn't make up his mind. One of the higher-ups said, "Sect Master, I know what you're worried about. The level 2 Desolate Hunter's strongest trump card is also our Fallen Feather Sword Sect's strongest trump card. If we reveal this trump card, it will be much easier for other factions to deal with us in the future." Luo Chenxiu nodded. Another higher-up said, "That's right. But sect leader, if we can squeeze into the top 10, our fame will increase greatly." The commercial value was self-evident. If we befriend the other top 10 forces in the future, not many forces will dare to touch us. Furthermore, if you become the champion, you will be rewarded. The incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. Both of them were priceless treasures that couldn't be bought with money. And if we're lucky enough to figure out the secret. When Luo Chenxiu heard this, his eyes lit up. A moment later, his brows finally relaxed. He seemed to have finally made up his mind. "Will do as you say. Pass down my orders. Tell Zhao Huan to go all out and become the champion of this martial arts assembly." "Yes, sect leader." The next morning, he ate the breakfast he had prepared himself. Mo Shi and the others rushed to the arena once again. Even though there were only 15 of them in total. Compared to the other forces, they were alone. But today, no one dared to look down on them. There was even a trace of envy, reverence, or flattery in many people's eyes. Sect Leader Mo is here. "Good morning, Sect Leader Mo." "Sect Leader Mo? Why did you fall for the trap?" Mo Shi nodded at these people and led the 14 members of the World Society into the arena. On the rostrum by the side of the arena, those big shots' gazes seemed to have inadvertently swept across the World Society's location. Being watched by so many big shots, Mo Shi's expression didn't change and his heart didn't beat faster. Soon, the martial arts assembly began. The first batch didn't have Mo Shi's name. Instead, there were 3 Desolate Hunters from the World Society. Out of these 3, one of them happened to meet the level 2 Desolate Hunter and was eliminated. The other one met the Holy Maiden of the White Lotus Society and was also eliminated. Mo Shi shook his head as he watched. Although the Desolate Hunters he had brought with him were only level 1 Desolate Hunters, they were all level 1 Desolate Hunters. But they had just become Desolate Hunters on the 4th day. Firstly, they weren't familiar with their speed, strength, and other aspects after leveling up. Secondly, they were lacking in combat experience. So as long as they met a level 1 Desolate Hunter, it would be difficult to win. It seemed that when he returned, he would have to start training them in this aspect. Of course, there were exceptions. In the second batch of matches, one of the Desolate Hunters from the World Society was lucky enough to win against a level 1 Desolate Hunter. In the third batch of matches, Wuxia finally went on stage again. His luck was better, as his opponent was still a level 10 Desolate Hunter. Wuxia could now defeat a level 10 Desolate Hunter without even using his dragon sense. In the end, other than Wuxia, there were still 4 other Desolate Hunters from the World Society who entered the next round. After a few more rounds, it was noon. The top 16 had finally been determined. In the top 16, other than Wuxia, the rest were all Desolate Hunters. Among the World Society's Desolate Hunters, 4 of them had entered the top 16. At this time, the audience in the stands had already seen some clues. The combat strength of the World Society's Desolate Hunters doesn't seem to be very good. Other than 1 or 2 occasionally, the other Desolate Hunters sent by other factions have all entered the top 16. But out of the 9 Desolate Hunters from the World Society, only 3 have entered the top 16. It's indeed a little disappointing. On the rostrum next to the arena, the big shots from the top 10 factions were discussing in low voices. It seems that the World Society's Desolate Hunters haven't been promoted for long. In terms of combat experience and other aspects, they are lacking compared to other level 1 Desolate Hunters. Yes, it's very strange. It seems like they used some method to forcibly promote people with low strength to the level of a Desolate Hunter. There's such a method? I remember that the second hunting island produces a type of night ghost spirit. After absorbing the night ghost spirit, one's strength can be forcibly raised to the level of a Desolate Hunter. However, after absorbing the night ghost spirit and becoming a Desolate Hunter, one can forget about advancing even one step further in their life. But the night ghost spirit is extremely rare, and only one is produced every few decades. It's impossible for them to get 9 in such a short time. So this is what makes people feel strange. As these big shots discussed this, they also secretly made up their minds. If they could get some information about the night ghost spirit from the World Society's disciples, it would be best if they could get some night ghost spirits directly from them. However, they looked at Lu Shuming. After thinking about it, they decided to temporarily dispel this idea. The World Society was now on good terms with the military. If they had any ideas about them, they would simply be courting death. At this time, Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Chapter 319. While the other big shots were considering whether or not they could get the night ghost spirit from World Society, Commander Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Others only saw the high level of the World Society's Desolate Hunters, but ignored their leader. The leader of World Society, as a level 5 Desolate Hunter, had challenged several level 10 Desolate Hunters in a row, and could basically kill them all with one punch. This kind of combat power was really rare in the world. At this time, Lu Shuming was slightly looking forward to it. If he were to meet a level 1 Desolate Hunter who could force the leader of World Society to use all his strength, what kind of scene would that be? After resting for more than an hour at noon, the competition for the top 8 was held in the afternoon. Because there were fewer matches, only one match was held each time. Of the 3 Desolate Hunters from World Society who entered the top 16, only one made it to the top 8. Wuxia was quite satisfied with this result. After all, for a newly established organization to be able to get such a result was really not bad. Finally, in another match, Wuxia's opponent was a woman. The saintess of the School of White Lotus, Mary. In the School of White Lotus, a protector came to Mary's side. He said to Mary in a low voice, "The saintess said that this time, the saintess must enter the top 8. Mary was wearing a white dress, and she looked like a fairy. She looked in the direction of World Society, smiled sweetly and said, 'Left Protector, don't worry. No matter how strong a level 5 Desolate Hunter is, I don't believe that he can challenge a Desolate Hunter.' The Protector nodded. 'I won't pass on the Saintess's words, but a level 5 Desolate Hunter, there is no need to worry. If a level 5 Desolate Hunter can defeat a level 1 Desolate Hunter, then wouldn't the world be in chaos?' The Holy Virgin Mary smiled again. She was like a fairy from the heavens descending to the mortal world. Soon after, She floated up and went to the arena. At the same time, Emosher also went to the arena. When the audience below the stage saw Saintess Mary, they immediately became excited. Damn, I didn't notice in the first few rounds, but this Saintess is so beautiful. Nonsense. Which of the Saintess of the School of White Lotus isn't beautiful? Go, Saintess. Saintess, you must enter the top 8. We can watch you for a few more rounds. The Holy Mother's School of White Lotus is not only good in character, but also beautiful. Each and every one of them is the best in the world. This time, no one mentioned the World Society's leader again. No one even looked at Emosher. After all, in their opinion, no matter how strong the World Society's leader was, this was the end for him. It was already surprising that a level 5 hunter could reach the top 16 in the ring. Why would he need a bicycle? Trying to win by challenging a level 1 desolate hunter? Stop dreaming. Take a shower and go to sleep. In the arena, the big shots were not optimistic about Emosher's chances. This is the end of the World Society's Gang Master. This battle should force him to use his full strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fight. The gap between a desolate hunter and a desolate hunter is like a natural chasm. Even if he uses his full strength, it's impossible for him to win. Lu Shuming's eyes flickered slightly. He was looking forward to seeing Emosher unleash his full strength, although he did not think that Emosher could win. At this moment, in the audience, other than the 10 or so people from World Society, no one believed that Emosher could win. At this moment, the Saintess was standing opposite Emosher. Under the sunlight, her white clothes were whiter than snow. She floated like a fairy. Her voice rose in spirals. Mary, Saintess of the School of White Lotus, please enlighten me. Emosher smiled and nodded. World Society's Gang Master, Emosher. The referee at the side gave the order. If you're ready, you can start. After saying that, he stepped aside. The Saintess did not move. She stared straight at Emosher's face, waiting for Emosher to make the first move. In her opinion, in a battle between a desolate hunter and a hunter, if the one who made the first move made the first move, it would be considered a loss. Emosher did not hold back. On his entire right arm, a genetic weapon quickly condensed. It was a huge axe. The huge axe looked longer than Emosher's height. At its widest part, it was more than 3 meters wide. Then he poured energy into it. The huge axe began to turn fiery red. The shape of the huge axe also changed. On both sides of the axe, a picture of a giant dragon appeared. The blade of the huge axe was a pair of wings of the giant dragon. The dragon's eyes were actually burning with raging flames. Flame Dragon Axe. The next moment, Emosher jumped up. He jumped to a height of 100 meters. Then, the huge axe in his right hand directly smashed towards the Saintess in the arena. The Flame Dragon Axe quickly widened and lengthened. Finally, it reached a length of 100 meters and slashed towards the Saintess. Seeing this, the Saintess was slightly surprised. A mere level 5 desolate hunter could explode with such power. But for her, a mere level 5 desolate hunter speed was still too slow. Thinking of this, she moved her feet lightly. She wanted to make a dodging movement that seemed easy on the surface. However, when she moved her feet, she found that her movements were somewhat sluggish. It was as if she was trapped by an invisible force. She frowned slightly. Psychokinesis. This guy was actually a psychic grandmaster. A desolate hunter and a psychic grandmaster dual cultivator. With such a surprise, the Saintess' speed slowed down even more. She had no choice but to suddenly move forward and roll. Boom! The Flame Dragon Axe fiercely chopped at the place where the Saintess had been standing. The arena here was protected by special energy, so it would not be damaged at all. But when the Flame Dragon Axe chopped down, the flames soared into the sky, dazzling everyone's eyes. And the Saintess' posture when she escaped was extremely embarrassing. She no longer had the graceful posture like before. Everyone present was slightly taken aback. Damn! The leader of the World Society is so strong. Even the Saintess is in such a sorry state. Did you notice that he added energy to the weapon to attack just now? That's right. He didn't use a genetic weapon to shoot out an energy pillar, but added energy to the genetic weapon to attack. I've never seen such an attack method before. At the same time, the big shots on the platform beside the arena all revealed looks of astonishment. This was because adding energy to a genetic weapon to attack was an attack that even they could not do. Although the Desolate Hunters could use energy weapons many times, the method they used was still to release energy light pillars to attack. This kind of attack seemed very powerful, but it had a weakness. It consumed too much energy. If it could not hit the enemy, the energy would be wasted. And according to what they knew, only when one reached the level of a Grand Desolate Master could they add energy to weapons, genetic weapons, and even their fists to attack. This had an advantage. Even if the attack did not hit the enemy, the energy would still be there and would not be wasted. And genetic weapons, fists, or weapons with energy added would be more than 10 times or even dozens of times more powerful than usual. Chapter 320. When Lu Shuming saw Emo Shi's method of attack, he was also shocked. This method of attack could save a lot of energy for a hunter. However, it was impossible for a normal hunter to do it. Even a hunter could not do it. He was just a level 5 hunter. How could he fight like a Grand Desolate Master? As for the Holy Mother, she was in a different state of mind. The strength of the World Society's leader was so strong. Would Mary panic? If she panicked, would she? After a while, she shook her head and dispelled these ridiculous thoughts. No matter how strong a level 5 hunter was, how could he be a match for a level 1 Desolate Master? She was thinking too much. Above the battle ring, Emo Shi once again swung his flame dragon battle axe and chopped down on the Holy Maiden one after another. After the saint was in a sorry state at the beginning, she was finally on her guard and was no longer panicking. However, when she was dodging, she felt that there was a strong force dragging her back. With her strength, it was not difficult for her to break free from this force. However, there was always this kind of power in her body that made her feel uncomfortable. Moreover, it did affect her speed. This made her a little annoyed. It seemed that if she did not show some strength, the World Society's leader would become more and more arrogant. Thinking of this, she rolled up her wide sleeves. It revealed the jade-white, porcelain-like mechanical arm inside. This mechanical arm, other than being too white and smooth, was different from a real person's arm in all other aspects. Soon, a flame burned on the surface of the arm. Her genetic martial art was revealed. It was a 3-meter-long sword that looked like it was carved out of white jade. Even though it was 3 meters long, it did not seem heavy at all. Instead, it gave people a feeling of lightness. Seeing this, the people at the side of the arena started to discuss. To be able to force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art, this World Society's leader is not simple. Indeed, this is the first time I've seen a hunter who can force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art. However, that's all there is to it. Once the saint's genetic martial art is revealed, he is basically finished. Yes, after all, there is a difference in realms. At this time, Saintess Mary saw Emo Shi chopping down with his axe again. As she dodged the attack, she thrust the sword in her hand towards Emo Shi. Whoosh! The long sword instantly extended 100 meters and stabbed towards Emo Shi's chest. Emo Shi smiled and his figure flashed. He instantly disappeared. Using Dragon Shadow Step, he appeared behind the Saintess. At the same time, he raised the giant axe in his right hand and chopped down at the Saintess. He didn't have the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. The Saintess had also sensed this and hurriedly dodged. She had long been prepared to face Emo Shi's telekinesis head-on. But this time, Emo Shi's telekinesis did not trap her. Instead, it drilled directly into her head and attacked her brain. The Holy Maiden suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. This stinging pain almost made her lose consciousness. When the pain disappeared and she came back to her senses, it was already too late for her to dodge. She hurriedly raised her sword to block. Ding! The sword and axe collided, and sparks flew everywhere. Emo Shi's figure flew back more than 100 meters, and the Saintess also retreated more than 10 meters. Everyone present was surprised when they saw this. A single hunter could force a hunter to retreat 10 meters. This was definitely an amazing achievement, could be bragged about for a month. On the rostrum next to the ring, Holy Mother White Lotus frowned slightly. What's wrong with Mary? She couldn't even handle a level 5 hunter and was forced back 10 meters by the other party. This was definitely embarrassing enough. Although the level of these big shots on the rostrum was not low, none of them were great psychic masters. Naturally, they didn't know that Mo Shi used a telekinesis attack. Lu Shuming was also slightly surprised. At this time, a division commander behind him whispered, "Commander." A soldier behind reported that the leader of the World Society used a telekinesis attack just now. When Lu Shuming heard this, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Telekinesis attack. That is to say, in addition to being a powerful hunter, Mo Shi was also a great psychic master. Dual cultivation. His original strength was enough to kill an opponent 5 levels higher than him. This was already a genius among geniuses. Now he was a psychic master. This kid was definitely a good person in his previous life. But everyone didn't know that this was just the beginning of their shock. After retreating 10 meters, the Saintess was about to counterattack. But at this time, Katja, a slight sound could be heard. She was slightly stunned. What was that sound? It sounded very close. Katja, Katja, Katja. Another 3 light sounds could be heard. This time, she finally heard the source of the sound. Looking down, she saw that a few cracks had appeared on her genetic longsword. Mary's expression changed greatly, but she didn't have time to react. Katja, 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 the cracks quickly covered the entire longsword. The next moment, crash, her longsword was like glass, shattering all over the ground. At this moment, everyone was silent. What? How? How is this possible? The Saintess's genetic weapon shattered all over the ground. My worldview has also been shattered. Everyone couldn't believe it. The genetic martial art of a desolate hunter had actually been shattered into pieces by a single strike from a desolate hunter. This was 2F** King ridiculous. Even novels wouldn't dare to write like this. On the rostrum beside the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus suddenly stood up. She looked at Mary in disbelief. Finally, her gaze landed on Mo Shi. She already knew that this match wasn't simple, but she didn't expect it to be so complicated. A dignified desolate hunter's genetic weapon had actually been shattered by a mere level 5 desolate hunter. This completely overturned her understanding. Of course, her emotions weren't mostly shock. Instead, it was anger. One must know that genetic weapons were the foundation of a cultivator. Without genetic weapons, a cultivator was considered to be crippled. Now that Saintess Mary's genetic weapon was shattered, even if she was a level 1 hunter, her strength would be reduced. She originally thought that Mary would inherit the position of Holy Mother in the future. But now it seemed that the Saintess's everything was ruined. Thinking of this, Holy Mother White Lotus's heart was boiling with anger. Hatred and anger had long since filled her chest. However, as the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, she hid these emotions well in her heart. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society had always been kind. Even if the Saintess's genetic weapon was destroyed, as the Holy Mother, she had to act like a Holy Mother. Thinking of this, she suppressed the anger in her heart. Then she let out a long sigh. Sigh. Of course, this sigh was for the other big shots to see. When the big shots heard this, they all spoke out. It's just a competition. There's no need to destroy the opponent's genetic weapon. This Mo Shi is too ruthless. Yeah, he doesn't know how to control his strength. Chapter 321. When the Holy Mother of White Lotus heard the words of the elders, she secretly nodded. This was the effect that she wanted. No matter what, the Holy Mother of White Lotus had to stand at the peak of public opinion. This would be of great help to the Holy Mother of White Lotus. Of course, although the elders were discussing Mo Shi's wrongdoings, no one dared to speak too harshly. After all, Mo Shi was someone who had a good relationship with the military. None of them dared to say too many bad things about Mo Shi in front of Commander Lu Shuming. But to the Holy Mother of White Lotus, she had already achieved her goal with that sigh. She knew that the best way to gain the support of public opinion was to influence things subtly and silently. She had to do it bit by bit. At this time, everyone at the scene came to their senses and understood the seriousness of the matter. F***CK. The Holy Mother's genetic martial art was destroyed. This kid is too ruthless. The Holy Mother had been giving in to him. Otherwise, did he think that a mere level 5 hunter could last until now? Who would have thought that this kid would repay kindness with enmity and destroy the Holy Mother's genetic martial art? He's simply a bastard. At this moment, Mo Shi, who was in the arena, was only looking at the Holy Mother coldly. After the initial panic, the Holy Mother quickly calmed down. Her gaze was cold. You destroyed my genetic martial art. You're too vicious. After saying this, the aura on her body completely exploded. She quickly stepped toward Mo Shi. Seeing this, Mo Shi still did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He had already plundered the Holy Mother's memories. He knew that although the Holy Mother looked like a Holy Mother on the surface, she was actually a vicious woman in her heart. As long as she seized the opportunity, he would not even know how he died. Hence, once Mo Shi made his move, he did not show any mercy. His genetic martial art once again slashed toward the Holy Mother of White Lotus. This time, the Holy Mother of White Lotus's aura completely exploded. Her speed was also much faster than before. Although she did not have a genetic martial art, after dodging Mo Shi's attack, she leaped and appeared in front of Mo Shi. At the same time, his right leg softly wrapped around the handle of Mo Shi's giant axe. As a desolate hunter, she was extremely powerful. With this entanglement, Mo Shi's giant axe was unable to move at all. At the same time, a flame covered her left arm. Her wide sleeves were burned to ashes by the flames. His left arm, which looked like it was carved from flower and jade, was exposed. At the same time, her left arm quickly transformed into a 3-meter-long sword. Everyone present was stunned. Another genetic martial artist. So the Holy Maiden is a double genetic warrior. Heavens! This is definitely the most talented Holy Maiden of the Holy Mother School of White Lotus in the last 100 years. In the arena, those big shots also widened their eyes in shock. It turned out that Mary was a double genetic warrior. Holy Mother by Lian Hua once again sighed heavily. Sigh. All the big shots understood what she meant. Originally, a dual genetic martial artist would definitely have a boundless future. As long as she was given another 20 to 30 years, she would definitely be the top existence in Yuzhou. However, now that a genetic martial artist was destroyed by Mo Shi, she would turn from a top genius to an ordinary genius. The gap between them was self-evident. In the audience, Happy was also a little worried. Could Brother Mo win? However, Emma was not worried at all. She had seen what Mo Shi had done in the second hunting ground, killing thousands of night ghosts with his bare hands. She had already reached the point of blind worship for Mo Shi's strength. Now, even if someone said that Mo Shi could defeat a desolate master, she would believe it. In the arena, Mo Shi saw that his opponent was actually a double genetic martial artist. He was slightly surprised. However, he then smiled. He saw his opponent's genetic martial artist once again pointing at his chest. His left arm was also rapidly changing. In the next moment, a fiery red gigantic dragon-shaped axe condensed on his left arm. Saintess Mary's long sword had just pierced Mo Shi's chest. Mo Shi's giant axe had already blocked in front of him. Ding! The sword and axe clashed, producing an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing. When Mary saw this, her eyes widened. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. In the stands, double genetic martial artist. On the main platform, double genetic martial artist. Lu Shuming thought to himself, double genetic martial artist. This was simply ridiculous. As a commander in the military, he had seen too many geniuses. Previously, although Mo Shi appeared to be a genius, he was only slightly stronger than ordinary geniuses. However, when he knew that Mo Shi was both a cultivator and a spirit master, he was a little tempted. He was even more outstanding than many geniuses in the military. And now, Mo Shi revealed that he was a double genetic martial artist, which made him even more tempted. Such a genius, even in the military, was hard to come by even once every few hundred years. When Mary saw that her attack was blocked by Mo Shi's other genetic martial artist, she was shocked. She quickly jumped and retreated more than 200 meters. Then, she quickly lowered her head to look at her longsword genetic martial artist. Luckily, there were no cracks on the genetic martial artist. However, Mo Shi's genetic martial artist was very strange. If she was hit by his genetic martial artist a few more times, her own genetic martial artist might not be able to withstand it. Damn it, he was a level 1 desolate hunter, and a double genetic warrior at that. When had he ever been so aggrieved in front of a mere hunter? Thinking of this, she frowned. Since that was the case, she would use her full strength. Thinking of this, the long sword in her left hand suddenly lit up with red and white light. Then, on the tip of the long sword, the red and white light condensed. Show! A red and white light pillar with a diameter of 10 centimeters suddenly shot toward Mo Shi. This light pillar came so fast that even Mo Shi could not dodge it. Luckily, he did not need to dodge. He directly blocked with the Flame Dragon battle axe. Boom, that light pillar blasted onto the Flame Dragon battle axe. A glaring red and white light lit up. Although it did not explode, people were unable to see the situation clearly. However, everyone knew that this time, Mo Shi would definitely be sent flying. After all, this was the full strength attack of a desolate hunter. No matter how strong Mo Shi was, he was only a level 5 desolate hunter. However, when the red light dissipated and the situation in the arena was revealed, everyone was once again dumbfounded. They saw Mo Shi standing in the center of the arena. Compared to before, his position was only 50 meters back. His giant axe was still on his body. There seemed to be no marks on the giant axe. The defense of this giant axe is too strong. This is too ridiculous. His genetic martial artist can easily shatter a desolate hunter's genetic martial artist. The full strength attack of a desolate hunter is unable to cause any damage to his genetic martial artist. Chapter 322. It wasn't just the people in the stands who were shocked. Even the big shots were shocked by the sturdiness of Mo Shi's genetic martial arts. Under normal circumstances, the sturdiness of each person's genetic martial arts was different, but the difference wasn't that big. Generally speaking, the higher the level, the sturdier the genetic martial arts. It wasn't uncommon for a desolate hunter to destroy a hunter's genetic martial arts. However, it was rare for a hunter's genetic martial arts to not have any changes under a desolate hunter's all-out attack. Seeing that she couldn't defeat Mo Shi with one strike, Saintess Mary's left arm energy weapon continued to release beams of light. Mo Shi, on the other hand, used his genetic martial arts to block the attacks. At this moment, he was in a slightly difficult situation. His opponent's firepower was too strong. She continuously used her energy weapon to attack him. It wasn't difficult for him to block the attacks, but it was impossible for him to counterattack. Saintess Mary kept releasing energy, so much so that only patches of red and white light could be seen in the center of the arena. She couldn't see Mo Shi's figure at all. Of course, Saintess Mary also knew that if this continued, her energy would be exhausted sooner or later. That would be the time for Mo Shi to counterattack. Therefore, she definitely wouldn't give Mo Shi such a chance. At a certain moment, after another energy beam shot out, her energy weapon suddenly changed direction. It no longer shot towards Mo Shi. Instead, she directly stabbed her sword into the ground. Ding! The arena had been reinforced by energy, so it was naturally impossible to pierce through it. However, when the tip of her sword touched the ground, the energy was instantly injected into the ground. The next moment, the ground was quickly frozen. The speed of this freezing was extremely fast, quickly moving towards Emoshur's direction. Emoshur originally thought that the opponent's attack would stop for a while, and he would be able to take a breather. He didn't expect the opponent's attack to come so quickly, and it came from below his feet. He only felt his feet turn cold. Then, the cold air quickly climbed up his body. His body was directly frozen. He didn't even have the chance to react. Seeing this, everyone at the scene was overjoyed. This is the Saintess' innate skill. She's only a level 1 Desolate Hunter and has already awakened her innate skill. Amazing. Otherwise, why would they say that the Saintess is an absolute genius? On the rostrum next to the ring, those big shots also looked surprised. After becoming a Desolate Hunter, there was a chance to awaken his innate talent. However, most people would only awaken their innate talents at level 3 or higher. This Saintess Mary had awakened her innate talent at level 1. She was definitely a genius among geniuses. Seeing that Emoshur was finally frozen, Saintess Mary breathed a sigh of relief. A hunter actually forced her to use her talent skill, which really made her very unhappy. Then let's end it. Thinking of this, another beam of light started to condense in the genetic martial art on her left arm. Boom! The light beam blasted directly onto Emoshur's ice sculpture. Of course, in order to maintain the image of the Virgin Mary. She did not attempt to kill Emoshur. No matter how much he wanted to kill, he couldn't do it in the arena. She had aimed at Emoshur's shoulder and launched the attack. Since you crippled my genetic martial art, I'll cripple yours too. There's nothing wrong with that. He would first destroy Emoshur's left genetic weapon. Boom! The left shoulder of the ice sculpture directly exploded. She did not attack Emoshur's left shoulder again. Instead, she aimed at Emoshur's legs. Boom! The legs of the ice sculpture were directly broken by the light beam. Then, the genetic martial art aimed at Emoshur's chest. She did not shoot out an energy beam. Her voice rose. I'm sorry you lost. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind her without any warning. Then, a black claw shadow slashed towards Saintess Mary's back. The Saintess' heart trembled, and she knew that this was not good. It was too late to dodge now. She quickly raised her sword to block above her head. Swish! The Titan dragon claw slashed on the long sword. Out of the Saintess's expectations, the long sword did not shatter. However, an invisible force instantly tore the Saintess's shoulder apart. It directly cut off her entire left arm. Swish! This sudden change caused an uproar in the arena. They thought that the Saintess would definitely win. Unexpectedly, the leader of the World Society actually used some kind of special footwork and instantly appeared behind the Saintess. And with one claw, he slashed off the Saintess's remaining genetic martial art. This turn of events was too sudden, and they had no time to react. Most importantly, the aura of the leader of the World Society at this moment was actually more than 10 times stronger than before. He had actually become a level 6 scavenger. Could it be that he had actually broken through during the battle just now? At the side of the arena, those big shots were also surprised. Breaking through during a battle was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Although breaking through required an opportunity, the situation in a battle was constantly changing. If one was not careful and was in the midst of breaking through, the other party would have already killed you. And those who could quickly break through during a battle were all top geniuses. Lu Shuming's eyes lit up even more. Why did this little guy always get all the good things? How much did the heavens favor him? At this moment, Emoshur took advantage of the Saintess's left shoulder to slash at the Saintess's head again with his sharp claws. Under normal circumstances, slashing off 2 of the Saintess's genetic martial arts would already give him a high chance of winning. There was no need to kill her. But Emoshur had plundered the Saintess's memory and knew that she was a kind person with a ruthless heart. Anyone who offended her would not have a good ending. Even if she did not make a move now, after the martial arts tournament ended, she would definitely do something to him. She might even endanger the people around him. Rather than waiting for her to do something, he might as well make the first move and kill her first. And at this moment, at the side of the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus shouted loudly, Have mercy. We admit defeat. As she said this, she had already leaped onto the arena. Emo snorted coldly. If I let her stay now, would she let me stay in the future? Thinking of this, not only did he not stop. Instead, he also added energy to his sharp claws. The speed of the sharp claws suddenly increased explosively. Whoosh, they slashed straight at the Saintess. Of course, Saintess Mary did not just sit there and wait for death. She rolled to the side in an extremely embarrassing manner and directly rolled away. The sharp claws did not hit her body. However, the area covered by the invisible force was not as small as the surface of the sharp claws. Boom, on the arena that was enhanced by energy. 5 claw marks quickly extended. Each claw mark was 3 meters wide, about half a meter deep, and extended over 100 meters long. And this was because the arena was enhanced by energy, which greatly reduced the damage. Otherwise, the entire arena would have long been destroyed. And although the Saintess was not in the claw marks, however, his entire body was affected by the aftershock of the invisible chi that was released. Rip! The lower half of her body was directly torn apart. Her entire body was broken into 2. At this moment, the entire scene was silent. Chapter 323. The Saintess had been cut in half. The entire place fell into silence at once. No one could react. The Saintess had clearly gained the upper hand and was about to win. How could she have been cut in half in the blink of an eye? Everyone from the White Lotus school of the Holy Mother turned pale. In their belief, the Saintess was invincible. The Saintess was also invincible with the protection of the Holy Light. How could she have been cut in half by a mortal? The Holy Mother, White Lotus, also landed beside the Saintess. Looking at the 2 halves of the Saintess' body, the anger in her heart surged. How much resources, effort, and time would it take to cultivate such a Saintess? In the end, not only had her dual genetic martial arts been destroyed, but she had also been cut in half. Fortunately, with the current technology of the continent and the Saintess' self-healing ability as a level 1 desolate hunter, such injuries could be healed in half a month at most. However, at this moment, the Saintess opened her mouth to speak. She looked at the Saintess with bloodshot eyes and hysterically said, "Saintess, avenge me. Kill him. I want him to die." This hysterical scream stunned everyone present. This was the complete opposite of the image of the Saintess in their minds. What the White Lotus saw was that the Saintess' head slowly tilted to one side after shouting those words. She reached out and found that there was no breath. The Saintess was dead. Logically speaking, such an injury should not have been able to endanger her life. However, her self-healing ability seemed to have failed. She had actually died. In other words, there was something strange about this kid's claws. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Emo, who was not far away. You killed her?" Emo nodded. Yes. Facing the questioning of a level 3 desolate hunter, he was not afraid at all. If this woman dared to attack him, he would have to use the Sea Dragon clone to kill her. The White Lotus aura suddenly surged and pressed down on Emo. "I already told you to stop." Emo felt uncomfortable under the pressure and scratched his head apologetically. "I used too much force just now and couldn't control it." "You?" The virgin White Lotus trembled slightly. If there was no one around, she would have slapped this bastard to death. However, the school of White Lotus had always presented itself as a bright, righteous, and tolerant sect. Even if the Holy Maiden was killed, she could not use force in public under such circumstances. Emo continued, "It's normal for there to be casualties in the arena." Then he ignored the woman and turned to look at the referee. A gulping sound came from the referee's throat as he glanced at the rostrum beside the ring. On the rostrum, although everyone wanted to speak up, when they realized that Emo had connections with the military, they could only remain silent. The referee had no choice but to shoulder everything by himself. He clenched his teeth and announced, "World Club, Emo wins." The Holy Mother of White Lotus revealed a pained expression and said to the disciples of the Holy Mother of White Lotus, Clean up the body and bury it. A few disciples of the Holy Mother's School of White Lotus hurriedly rushed onto the stage and carried the Holy Maiden's body down. At this moment, everyone who saw this scene from the sidelines was furious. He actually killed the saintess. Too ruthless. The Holy Mother already admitted defeat, but he still insisted on attacking. A person like this should be kicked out of the arena. The referee should kick him out. Kicking him out would be letting him off too easily. That was the Holy Maiden, a genius and beauty. Yet he killed her just like that. He should pay with his life. Pay with his life. In the end, the cries of the spectators converged into 4 words. Pay with his life. Pay with his life. On the stage, Moshe showed no fear in the face of all the hostile gazes. His gaze slowly swept across the entire arena. If you have the ability, come up and kill me. Those who were swept by his gaze unconsciously lowered their heads when they saw his cold gaze. This was because Moshe had nurtured Long Wei in the Dragon's Denver. Although he did not release Long Wei on his own accord, he would inadvertently reveal a sliver of it. These humans would naturally feel fear when they saw it. Only then did Moshe slowly get off the stage. Everyone waited for Moshe to get off the stage before raising their heads one by one. This kid is too strange. When he looked at me, it actually made my scalp go numb. Yeah, I have the same feeling too. So when he gets on the stage, let's not talk too much. At the same time, in the stands, the Fallen Feather Sword sect master, Luo Chenxiu, was secretly delighted. He secretly told the level 2 Desolate Hunter, "Don't worry. If you go up against Moshe later, say that you want to seek justice for the saintess." The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Zhao Huan nodded. "Yes, sect master." Luo Chenxiu continued, "This kid is a little strange. When you go up against him, use all your strength. You must use all your strength to kill him within a short period of time. Otherwise, as time passes, I'm afraid there will be changes." The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Zhao Huan nodded again. "Yes, sect master." In the next 2 rounds, the World Society's last Desolate Hunter was also eliminated. In these 2 rounds, Moshe's opponents were both level 1 Desolate Hunters. With his previous experience, Moshe was able to deal with the 2 Desolate Hunters. Although he could not completely crush them, it was still a piece of cake for him. In the end, Moshe eliminated the 2 level 1 Desolate Hunters and entered the top 2. These 2 matches gave the audience a clear understanding of Moshe's combat strength. When Moshe killed the saintess, some people thought that it was just a coincidence. Some people thought that the saintess was too merciful and didn't kill him. However, in these 2 matches, Moshe always had the upper hand. Then, in less than a minute, his advantage would increase. Finally, in less than 2 minutes, he defeated his opponent. This made everyone present speechless. A level 6 Desolate Hunter consecutively challenged a level 1 Desolate Hunter and won all 3 matches. What else was there to say? If Moshe hadn't killed the saintess and caused everyone's disgust, they would probably be cheering for Moshe. In the end, the top 2 were undoubtedly Moshe and the level 2 Desolate Hunter from the Fallen Feather Sword sect, Zhao Huan. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Fallen Feather Sword sect of the World Society. Happy was a little worried and gestured with his hands. "Brother Mo, can you beat him?" Moshe revealed a warm smile and rubbed Happy's head. He said, "Don't worry. When has your brother Mo ever lost?" After receiving Moshe's confirmation, Happy was completely relieved. On the other side, the woman called Zhao Huan had a cold gaze. His eyes were cold as he stared at Moshe. Seeing that Moshe was also looking at her, her lips moved slightly. Although they were too far apart and the crowd was noisy, he couldn't hear what she was saying. However, through the movement of her mouth, Moshe could roughly guess that she was saying, "If you dare to enter the arena, die." Chapter 324. When Zhao Huan looked at Moshe, her lips moved slightly. Moshe recognized that she was saying, "If you dare to enter the arena, die." Moshe could not be bothered with her. He said to Happy beside him, "Go back and rest." The battle for the championship would be held at noon the next day. After all, both of them had gone through continuous battles. At this time, their energy was probably almost depleted. If they fought at this time, the scene might not be as exciting as when they were at their peak. Therefore, the organizing committee decided to rest for the night and fight again the next day. In the evening, all the factions spread out and looked for a place to set up camp. Mosher led the dozen or so people from World Society to the place where they rested yesterday. In the evening, Mosher and Happy sat at the top of the mountain and looked at the distant horizon. The red sun was slowly setting in the west. Watching the sunset at the top of the mountain was completely different from watching it on the ground or by the sea. The sunset at the top of the mountain seemed to be more beautiful and magnificent. The two of them leaned against each other until the sun completely set. They all enjoyed this moment very much. At around 9 o'clock at night, Mosher and Happy returned to the tent and planned to rest. At this moment, a person came to the tent. This person was dressed in a military uniform and had a straight figure. Mosher had an impression of this person. He was one of the division commanders behind Lu Shuming. The teacher didn't smile or speak harshly. He spoke bluntly. "The commander asked me to tell you that you killed the Virgin and the Saint of the White Lotus Society and angered the public. You have to be careful tonight." Mosher nodded. "Thank the commander for the reminder." The division commander nodded. "I will." After saying that, he turned around and quickly walked out of the tent. After the division commander left, Mosher fell into deep thought. During the martial arts tournament, according to the rules, private fights were not allowed. He originally thought that those factions would not dare to attack World Society in private. However, Lu Shuming said that he had angered the public. Under such circumstances, if any faction launched a sneak attack at night, they would comply with the public's wishes. They would be much bolder. There was no telling what would happen. Thinking of this, Mosher asked Happy to call everyone into the tent. He said, "Rest in the dragon's den tonight." When everyone heard this, they knew that this was no small matter. They replied in unison, "Yes." Mosher took out the dragon cave and moved it with his mind. Everyone was sent into the dragon cave. He placed the virtual sentry tower outside the tent. Then he also entered the dragon's cave. The dragon cave instantly disappeared from the tent as if it had never existed. At the same time, in a military green tent, the division commander came back to report. "Chief, the mission has been completed." Lu Shuming nodded. "Yes, go and rest." The division commander nodded. "Yes." But before he left, he asked again, "Chief, if you value the World Society's leaders so much, why don't we go and help them? I'm afraid there are quite a few sects that attacked them tonight." Lu Shuming shifted his gaze away from the document he was flipping through and looked at the teacher. The growth of any genius will experience many trials and tribulations. If we help him too much, the speed of his growth will be greatly reduced. Even if he matures, he will still be far from reaching his upper limit. The division commander nodded. Understood. He then turned around and walked out of the tent. Lu Shuming retracted his gaze. He stared at the meager information about Mosher on the multifunctional watch. He muttered to himself. There had never been any information about this Mosher before. It was as if such a person had appeared out of thin air. It wasn't just him. Even everyone around him seemed to have appeared out of thin air on the flaming initial continent. Could it be that they really came from another world? However, the military had never stuck to one pattern when it came to recruiting talents. Otherwise, the military wouldn't be so powerful. No matter where he came from, no matter what he had done in the past. As long as he really joined the military in the future, the military would be able to make him a new powerhouse. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. In Mosher's mind, the alarm of the virtual sentry tower suddenly rang in the mind of Mosher, who was sleeping soundly. Mosher immediately connected to the virtual sentry tower with his dragon will. Everything within a radius of 100 kilometers was instantly within his sight. At this time, there were as many as 5 forces that were planning to attack him. About 1 kilometer away from their tent, A force ranked 88th was lurking there. The leader asked in a low voice, "Leader, isn't it a bit too risky for us to make a move this time?" The leader said in a low voice, "The World Society is arrogant and actually killed the Saintess in the arena. This has already angered the public. We're following the public opinion by killing them now. It's worth taking a little risk." Another person also said, "We have a silence bomb. If we secretly use it on them, they'll be vaporized in an instant. No matter how strong their leader is, he won't be able to resist at all." However, the leader said, "It's best if we can get their heads and prove to all the forces that we killed them. Otherwise, even if we kill them, it'll be a waste of effort." That person said again, "Then we'll use hallucinogens to make them fall into an illusion one by one. Then we'll go in and cut off their heads." The leader nodded. "Yes, that's what I mean." At the same time, 5 kilometers away, another force was also lurking quietly. "Leader, it seems that someone has arrived before us." The leader frowned slightly. "If they take the credit first, then our trip tonight will be a waste. Get ready. If they start fighting later, we'll act according to the situation. No matter what, we must get the World Society leader's head." Yes. At the same time, 10 kilometers away, the third force had just come out of the tent. Tonight's matter must be settled in one blow. A few forces have already gone over. However, the World Society will definitely be prepared. When the time comes, it'll definitely be a chaotic battle. We'll follow them first. When they're fighting, we'll get the World Society leader's head and retreat immediately. Understand? Understood. Mosher roughly scanned with his dragon's perception. At this point, there were quite a few people who wanted to harm the World Society. There were as many as 20 forces. However, these forces weren't doing it for so-called justice. There was no justice for adults. There were only benefits. The reason why they wanted to kill him was to destroy the World Society. The only reason was for themselves. After all, as long as they got the World Society leader's head, it would be considered as avenging the Saintess of the White Lotus Society. It would be considered as enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Mosher had already expected this, so he wasn't in a hurry. He just secretly took note of these forces. What surprised him was that the Holy Mother of White Lotus Society didn't make a move. However, Mosher knew that it wasn't that the White Lotus Society didn't want to kill him. It was that they were shrewd enough to hide their true intentions deep enough. Chapter 325. Out of the 99 forces, more than 20 of them wanted to kill him. However, Mosher didn't care too much about this. To be honest, with their forces, his sea dragon avatar could kill or injure more than half of them. In addition, there were more than 10 desolate hunters from the World Society and more than 20 mechas operated by the little monk, who were equivalent to desolate hunters. Even if more than 20 of them attacked together, what could they do? However, Mosher's real purpose for participating in the martial arts tournament was to get the map of the ancient dragon battlefield and the incomplete dragon vein. Before getting these two things, he felt that it was better to play it safe. Otherwise, if he wiped out more than 20 forces in one go, would the martial arts tournament still be held? Would he still want the reward? Therefore, Mosher just secretly remembered these forces. For the time being, they didn't take any action. At the same time, in the military tent, Commander Lu Shuming asked the division commander next to him, "How's the situation?" The division commander shook his head. "The situation is not very optimistic. A total of 27 forces want to attack the World Society. I'm afraid the World Society won't be able to survive." Another division commander asked, "Chief, should we help him?" Lu Shuming shook his head. "No, for a genius, it's not necessarily a bad thing to suffer some setbacks. Since we've already reminded him, we've done our best." A division commander said with some regret, "But it's really a pity if such a genius dies like this." Lu Shuming thought for a moment and said, "You two send people over. It doesn't matter if the rest of the World Society die. If Mosher's life is in great danger, give him a hand." The two division commanders looked at each other and nodded. "Yes, Chief. In fact, these two division commanders were also a little surprised. In the past, the commanders almost never participated in the internal struggles of Yuzhou. The internal forces of Yuzhou fought to their deaths. It was their own business. Even if these forces had talented disciples, the chief wouldn't take a second look at them. But this time, in addition to reminding gang leader Mo, he even asked them to lend a hand if necessary. It was obvious that the chief valued Mo Sure very much. But then again, with Mo Sure's strength and talent, he was indeed worthy of the commander's high regard. At this moment, the first force had already arrived at the edge of the tent. World Society had set up a total of 3 tents. Mo Sure happily shared a tent, Emma and her son shared a tent, and everyone else shared a tent. The leader of that faction gestured with his hand, indicating that the dozens of people were divided into 3 groups. Then, under his command, the 3 tents were injected with hallucinogens at the same time. The entire tent was silent. 10 seconds later, under the order of the gang leader, these dozens of people wearing special gas masks rushed out together and rushed into the tent. However, when they entered the tent, they were shocked to find that there was not even a shadow inside. Everyone was stunned. What happened? Didn't you say that they stayed in their tents the whole night? What about the Psyche Master? Come here. The Psychic Master was called over. The gang leader frowned and asked, "What happened?" The Psychic Master's heart tightened, and he was at a loss. I don't know either. When they returned to the tent in the afternoon, they used some kind of method to block psychic detection. I couldn't detect their presence at all. The gang leader thought for a few seconds and cursed. Damn it! Retreat first. Then, he led this group of people and quickly retreated. Not long after, the second group of people also arrived. Like the previous faction, they also failed to find anything. At the same time, 5 kilometers away, the third faction had been listening attentively. What happened? There's no movement. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, after 2 factions went there, it should be a chaotic battle now. It's really strange. Not long after, the third faction sent a few people to investigate. Soon, the people who investigated came back. Gang leader, World Society's tent is empty. Empty? Yes. Everyone was very surprised. It can't be that the other powers have already quietly wiped out the World Society, right? The people who came back from the investigation shook their heads. It doesn't seem like it. There are no traces of fighting. The gang leader frowned. Damn it, what's going on? At the same time, the other factions who failed to find anything heard that there was no movement at World Society's tent. They were very puzzled. What the hell was going on? Shouldn't be. They also sent 2 or 3 people to investigate. In the end, there were still no traces of fighting. Everyone in World Society seemed to have evaporated into thin air. No matter what method they used, they couldn't find them at all. In the end, all the factions left resentfully. At the same time, in the military tent, the division commander reported the situation to Commander Lu Shuming. Commander, do you think that the entire world meeting used the wormhole teleportation technology and left at night? Lu Shuming shook his head. There's a special restriction on Huichun Peak. We can't use the wormhole transmission technology here. The other division commander was puzzled. That's very strange. They can't use the wormhole transmission technology, but World Society seems to have evaporated into thin air. Commander Lu Shuming pondered for a while and said, maybe it's an independent space. Independent space. Independent space. The 2 division commanders were stunned. Independent space, it only exists in theory. It hasn't been proven yet. In the research of some top scientists in the Flaming Land, they deduced that there were many independent spaces in the universe. Independent spaces could be the fragments of a parallel world after it was destroyed. They could also be the entrances to other worlds. These independent spaces were completely independent of the entire universe. Anything that happened in this universe wouldn't affect the independent spaces. Even if this universe was destroyed, the independent spaces would still be unaffected. But this was just a theory. It had been more than 300 years since the theory of independent space appeared, but no one had discovered an independent space. Even if the ancient dragon battlefield seemed to be independent of this world on the surface, it was still dependent on this world to maintain it. For example, the ancient dragon battlefield was like a balloon tied to the flaming land. If the flaming land was destroyed, the balloon would be destroyed too. Even if it wasn't destroyed, it would lose its dimensional points and drift in the universe. So strictly speaking, the ancient dragon battlefield wasn't an independent space. Commander Lu Shuming looked at the large pile of information displayed on his multifunctional watch. After a long time, he said, "Is there anything that won't happen to Mo Shi?" Chapter 326. Is there anything that is impossible for Mo Shi? Lu Shuming said slowly. When the two division commanders heard this, they were both stunned. Then they understood. Indeed, as the army commander said, there was nothing that was impossible for Mo Shi. A level 6 hunter was able to kill a level 1 hunter. Before this, it was simply impossible for it to appear. But it had happened for Mo Shi. Being both a hunter and a psychic grandmaster, as well as having a double genetic martial art, all three of these things, in the past, this was simply impossible. However, it still appeared on Mo Shi's body. The arena had been strengthened by energy. Even a hunter's energy weapon would not be able to destroy it. It was naturally impossible for a mere level 6 hunter to destroy it. However, Mo Shi had forcibly left 5 long and deep claw marks on the arena. It was as if there was nothing that was impossible for him. Thinking of this, the two division commanders nodded. Chief is right. Lu Shuming continued. So, I am still looking forward to tomorrow's finals. The two division commanders heard this and nodded. A level 6 hunter against a level 2 hunter. Originally, there was nothing to see. There was no suspense. However, because this level 5 hunter was Mo Shi, everything seemed to be confusing. From the looks of it, Mo Shi was able to deal with a level 1 hunter with ease. He did not even use his full strength. Then, against a level 2 hunter, it was very likely that he would use his full strength. They were really looking forward to seeing what kind of limit Mo Shi could reach when he used his full strength. That night, the 20 or so factions had worked for nothing. The next day, Mo Shi slept until 10 o'clock before he woke up. He felt completely refreshed. Seeing that Mo Shi seemed to be very excited, he asked in sign language, "Brother Mo, you seem very happy." Mo Shi nodded. "Yes, I had a good sleep last night. Of course, I am in good spirits." In fact, the reason why he was happy was not only because he saw the confused expressions of the factions last night, but also because of the most important thing. That was today's finals. He was determined to win the championship, and he was also determined to get those rewards. With a thought, Mo Shi placed everyone back into the tent. He put away the dragon cave. More than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. At around 11:40, Mo Shi led the World Society members into the arena. Everyone in the martial arts arena had their eyes on the World Society members. Those forces that tried to destroy the World Society last night were all dumbfounded when they saw the arrival of the World Society. What happened? Where did they go last night? He disappeared all of a sudden and then reappeared this morning. Are these guys ghosts? What the hell? As for those forces who didn't plan to make a move last night but were planning to gloat, they saw that world will appear. They were all dumbfounded. I heard that there were many forces that went to destroy the World Society last night. Why are they still fine? Could it be that those forces are no match for the World Assembly? It doesn't seem like it. If they really aren't a match for the World Society, they should at least have injured members. But now, no matter if it's the World Society or those forces, none of them are injured. This is really strange. The Fallen Feather Sword Sect members were slightly disappointed when they saw the World Society appear. They had wanted to send people to destroy the World Society last night, but they heard that many forces had already gone, so they didn't make a move. After all, the most important thing for them was to win the championship of the martial arts tournament. If those forces went, the World Society would definitely be destroyed. Then, Their level 2 desolate hunters would be able to win without a fight. They wouldn't have to reveal all their trump cards. But they didn't expect the world society to be unharmed. This was King ridiculous. Luo Qianqiu glanced at the leaders of those forces and cursed in his heart. What the hell are you guys doing? So many forces and you can't even destroy a mere dozen people. What a bunch of trash. But then, he shifted his gaze to Emoshur. It didn't matter. Even if these trash were useless, there was still the fallen feather sword sect. Later on in the arena, Zhao Huan would kill the world society's leader in front of everyone. It would be considered as upholding justice. The fallen feather sword sect would win the hearts of the people. Not only would they win the championship, but they would also be able to rank in the top 10 in the overall evaluation. 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, he called the level 2 desolate hunter over again. He reminded him, later on in the arena, don't hold back. Kill him as soon as possible. Zhao Huan puffed out his chest confidently. Sect leader, don't worry. A mere level 6 desolate hunter is nothing in my eyes. Of course, I won't underestimate him. I won't give him any chance. Luo Qianqiu was slightly relieved. He nodded and said, yes, that's for the best. Finally, it was noon. Under everyone's gazes, the referee walked up the arena. Unlike the previous appearances, this time the referee acted as the host. The finals of this year's Martial Battle Assembly is about to begin under everyone's anticipation. The first to appear is the most talented young genius of the Fallen Feather Sword Sect, Level 2 Desolate Hunter, Zhao Huan. Before the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan leaped onto the arena. Although she was a woman, she was valiant and her movements were clean and neat. She had both the gentleness of a woman and the elegance of a man. This immediately caused a burst of applause at the scene. Good. Beautiful. As expected of a level 2 desolate hunter. Then, the referee said again, the next to appear is the leader of world society. As a level 5 desolate hunter, he has overcome all difficulties and made a breakthrough in battle. As a level 6 desolate hunter, he has defeated several desolate hunters. Emoshur. This time what welcomed Emoshur was sparse applause. At the same time, it was accompanied by waves of boos. I really don't know how such a person can make it to the end. He even killed the Saintess. He's simply inhumane. Yes, everyone in the White Lotus School has done good deeds their whole life. Even some demonic and evil cults wouldn't do anything to the White Lotus School. But he killed the Saintess of the White Lotus School. Such a person really deserves to die. Kill him. Kill him. Avenge the Saintess. Kill him. The crowd was getting more and more irritable. Emoshur, on the other hand, was neither hurried nor slow as he slowly walked into the ring. He didn't care about the curses of the people below the arena. A true warrior dared to face the curses of the crowd. He dared to laugh at this bumpy life. He dared to bear the malice of the world. At most, he would just destroy them. Finally, when Emoshur walked onto the arena and stood opposite Zhao Huan's face was full of disdain. I said, if you dare to enter the arena, die. Emoshur laughed and didn't say anything. He always liked to speak with his actions. Chapter 327. In the arena, under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Zhao Huan puffed out her chest and raised her head, looking at Emoshur proudly. The expression on her face, the gaze in her eyes, and the way she stood, all of them showed one word: disdain. At the same time, she finally faced Emoshur and said, Brother Shur, I've said it before. If you dare to enter the arena, die. Emoshur smiled. The last person who dared to speak to him like this had long been buried with grass as tall as a person. However, he did not say anything. He was a person who didn't like to talk nonsense. He would just fight. The referee looked at the time. 12:05. He said to Emoshur and Zhao Huan, if you're ready, you can start now. As soon as the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan's aura suddenly changed. She no longer looked like a valiant woman. Instead, she was filled with a tough, powerful, and mysterious aura. She had not condensed a genetic martial art. Since the sect leader had said that she had to make this kid unable to resist, then she would use her strongest move. She scratched the tip of her right index finger with her left hand. A bloody wound appeared. Her right index finger kept moving in the air. As she moved, a blood-red hexagram pattern appeared in the air. In the next instant, flames began to burn on the hexagram. As the flames burned, a spatial door seemed to open in the hexagram pattern. It was pitch black inside the door. When everyone saw this, they looked at the spatial door in surprise. What is this? I've never seen it before. The big shots at the side of the arena saw this scene. All of them opened their eyes wide. Could it be? It can't really be. Didn't they say that that family had already ceased to exist thousands of years ago? When Commander Lu Shuming saw this scene, his eyes also flickered. A division commander behind him asked, "Commander, this can't really be that family, right?" Lu Shuming nodded. "It should be. According to our intelligence, that family didn't go extinct. Instead, they have descendants who passed it down." The other division master also looked surprised. "If that's the case, then sect leader Mo is afraid." Lu Shuming nodded. "This time, no matter what, he won't be able to create another miracle. The two of you should be ready at all times. If Mo Shi's life is in danger, immediately take him away from the scene. But do it neatly and don't let anyone find out that it was done by the military. After all, the will of the people could not be defied. If people find out that it was us who saved him, I'm afraid no one will listen to us anymore." The two division commanders had serious expressions on their faces. "Yes, Chief." At that moment, in the ring, a huge figure slowly emerged from the dark space gate. The space door had a diameter of more than 50 meters. But it still seemed a little too crowded. With great difficulty, it squeezed out of the spatial gate. A moment later, he jumped onto the arena. Only then did everyone see its true appearance. A giant ape. The giant ape was about 50 meters tall. Its limbs were thick and sturdy, and its entire body was covered in black fur. The corners of his wide mouth revealed two thick fangs. His eyes were bloodshot. It looked extremely mysterious, yet extremely powerful. When the crowd saw this, they immediately exclaimed, "Khan, summoner. Oh my God, it's really a summoner. Hasn't the summoner clan been exterminated? Hasn't their inheritance been cut off?" In the past, I only saw summoners in legends and history books. I didn't expect to see a living summoner today. I didn't come here in vain today. In the history of the Flaming Land, there was such a clan. Their clan could use blood to open a channel. From there, they could summon desolate beasts from thousands of miles away, or even tens of thousands of miles away. They could also control these desolate beasts to help them fight. Usually, a hunter or a desolate hunter could summon a desolate beast that was 3 levels higher than their own realm under extreme circumstances. Therefore, every summoner was a powerful existence that could fight at least 3 levels higher. But later, for some reason, this clan seemed to have been wiped out overnight. All the summoners had also disappeared. In the 10,000 years since then, not a single summoner had appeared. Who would have thought that 10,000 years later, a summoner would appear once again? At this moment, everyone looked at Mo Shi, who was opposite the giant ape. They felt that Mo Shi was so small in front of the giant ape. Looking at the giant ape's aura, it was very likely to be a level 4 mutated desolate beast, which was equivalent to a level 4 desolate hunter. Mo Shi was very strong and could kill a level 1 desolate hunter. But no matter how strong he was, there was a limit. In front of a level 4 mutated desolate beast, he was completely an ant. As a result, the crowd was filled with angry, excited, and gloating voices. "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" Some people even couldn't wait to see Mo Shi beg for mercy. When he begs for mercy later, this summoner must not let him go. Yes, the saintess has already admitted defeat, but he still killed her. When he begs for mercy later, the summoner will not let him go. In the Fallen Feather Sword Sect's seat, Sect Master Luo Chenshou's eyes flashed, full of anticipation. He knew that Zhao Huan could defeat Emoshur with his own strength. But to be safe, he still summoned a level 4 mutated desolate beast. This way, it would be foolproof. At the same time, he was also glad that when he killed that woman, he left her infant behind. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain such a powerful helper. At the same time, he killed her mother, but she didn't know that after she grew up, she worked for him and even treated him as her adoptive father and was grateful to him. This kind of feeling was really wonderful. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, a group of elders were shocked. They looked at Emoshur as if they were looking at a dead man. They all knew the strength of the summoner race from the history books and legends. Now that a level 4 mutated desolate beast was summoned, no matter how strong Emoshur was, could he fight against a level 4 mutated desolate beast? Only Lu Shuming frowned slightly at this moment. It's actually a level 4 mutated desolate beast. It seems, if Emoshur's life is in danger later, I will have to do it myself. The two division masters were secretly surprised. How long had it been since the chief fought? Moreover, the chief had always fought against foreign enemies or desolate beasts. He had never fought for the life and death of a junior in Yuzhou. As an important figure, he followed the natural law. As long as there wasn't too much chaos in Yuzhou, he would usually not fight. But this time, he was going to fight for a junior. How could they not be surprised? At the same time, in the arena, Emoshur saw the mutated desolate beast. The blood dragon's eyes swept over it and instantly saw its level. Level 4 mutated desolate beast. He smiled. How dare he show off his slight skill in front of an expert? Almighty heavenly dragon. Chapter 328. Emoshur couldn't help but laugh when he saw the mutated wild beast. It was just a level 4 mutated wild beast. The next moment he moved his mind. In an instant, it appeared in front of him. The sea dragon avatar appeared. Its body shape was similar to a giant crocodile. However, there were many barbs on its head, making it look even more ferocious and powerful. It was more than 20 meters long and covered in hard scales. Its 4 legs were no longer attached to the ground. Instead, they supported its body and made it stand more than 5 meters tall. It had a huge tail that looked like a giant beam with 3 sharp blades. A pair of blood-red eyes glinted fiercely. Everyone at the scene was dumbfounded when they saw this. Another summoner? How is this possible? Didn't they say that summoners are extinct? How come there are 2 summoners in one battle? Damn, are you kidding me? At the edge of the arena on the rostrum, the big shots all had looks of disbelief. Another expert from the summoner clan. This is unbelievable. I didn't expect this. Luo Chenshou of the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect was shocked. Damn, do you have to do this? This kid is also a summoner? God, are you playing with me? I finally managed to cultivate a summoner and relied on her to shine in the martial arts tournament to raise the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect's ranking. You, on the other hand, have created another summoner for me. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, the big shots all had their own ideas. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Cult, by Lian Hua, frowned. She even glanced at Lu Shuming secretly. She saw that Lu Shuming's gaze was fixed on Emoshur and had never left him. This made Bai Lian Hua frown even deeper. It seemed that it would be troublesome to kill this kid. On the arena, Zhao Huan saw the mutated wild beast summoned by Emoshur, and his eyes flashed with confidence. He didn't expect this guy to be a summoner too. As the saying goes, people of the same trade are enemies. Only people of the same trade have hatred. When people of the same trade meet, their eyes would turn red. Although this kid was also a summoner, the desolate beast he summoned was only about 20 meters long. One had to know that desolate beasts were judged by their size. 20 meters long, even in combat form, it was not that big. Furthermore, Emoshur was only a level 6 hunter, so the beasts he could summon would at most be level 9. Compared to his own level 4 mutated dire beast, the difference was like heaven and earth. Thinking of this, She pointed at the sea dragon clone and said fiercely, "Tear it apart." When the giant ape heard this, it immediately moved. Its body, which was originally standing upright, was now bent down. He landed on all fours. He crouched low, like a cheetah that was about to pounce. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. From their point of view, the desolate beast that Emoshur had summoned was far weaker than this giant ape. The giant ape could easily tear apart the desolate beast summoned by Emoshur. However, in the next moment, something happened that made everyone's jaws drop. Just as the giant ape lowered its body to the lowest point, as if it was about to shoot an arrow, it suddenly turned around. It fled toward the hexagram spacetime portal behind it. Everyone present suddenly felt like they had been F***ed. It escaped? The giant ape actually escaped. What the F***ck is going on? Only Zhao Huan felt a chill in her heart. Her summoned beast was afraid. A creature that could make her summoned beast afraid must be far stronger than her summoned beast. Thinking of this, she looked at the strange creature that was only 20 meters long in disbelief. However, just as her gaze fell on the sea dragon clone, a bolt of lightning was instantly released from the sea dragon clone. The lightning bolt with a diameter of half a meter hit the giant ape. Buzz buzz. The giant ape's body was suddenly covered with electric currents like small snakes. The giant ape let out a wail and fell to the ground with a scream. The sea dragon clone jumped up and instantly pounced on the giant ape. It began to tear the ape apart. On the arena, the smell of blood suddenly filled the air. The scene was so tragic that it was unbearable to look at. In a moment, the giant ape was swallowed by the sea dragon clone. After eating, it still didn't seem to be satisfied. It licked its lips with its scarlet tongue as if it hadn't had enough. Then it suddenly raised its head and stared at Zhao Huan with its blood-red eyes. Seeing this, Zhao Huan knew something was wrong. She quickly turned around and fled. However, the sea dragon clone only took one step and jumped behind Zhao Huan. It swung its long tail. Slap! It slapped Zhao Huan's back hard. Zhao Huan was only a level 2 desolate hunter. How could he withstand a blow from a level 5 mutated wild beast? His whole body was instantly smashed into meat paste by this tail. Everyone at the scene instantly fell silent. They thought that this time, Emoshur would definitely lose, even be killed. But they never thought that what they saw was the opposite of what they thought. Not only did Emoshur not lose, but he also killed Zhao Huan in an instant. This was really hard to believe. And some of the desolate hunters who had been defeated by Emoshur were all secretly scared. The opponent they were fighting was actually an existence equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter. Fortunately, Emoshur didn't kill them. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. In the Fallen Leaves sword sect, Luo Qianxiu stood up abruptly. His eyes were filled with anger. He really couldn't accept this result. On the rostrum, everyone was also silent. Their eyes fell on Emoshur's sea dragon clone. The sea dragon clone could kill a level 4 mutated wild beast in an instant, which was equivalent to killing a level 4 desolate hunter. And among them, except for one level 4 desolate hunter, the rest were all desolate hunters below level 3. Suddenly, they realized that the guy they didn't think highly of before was now someone they could look up to. This kid actually had such a powerful trump card. Originally, some of them were still thinking whether they could comply with public opinion and kill Emoshur. But now, they were all afraid because of their previous thoughts. If they really did harm to Emoshur, it was equivalent to offending a level 5 desolate hunter. Their entire sect would most likely be annihilated. Lu Shuming's eyes flashed slightly. When he saw Zhao Huan summon a mutated wild beast, he had already planned to help Emoshur when he was in danger. He didn't expect that Emoshur would also summon a mutated wild beast. And he even killed Zhao Huan's beast in an instant. In the end, even Zhao Huan was killed in an instant. Now, it seemed that Emoshur's real combat power was actually equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter, the same level as himself. This was really hard to believe. At the same time, Emoshur had created too many miracles. Telekinesis and hunter dual cultivation, dual genetic martial arts, summoner, It was equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter's beast. All of this made Mo Shi seem like a legendary existence. This was simply unbelievable. Chapter 329. After the sea dragon doppelganger killed Zhao Huan, the arena was already drenched in blood and a complete mess. On this bloody arena, Mo Shi's gaze swept over the surroundings. This time, no one below the arena dared to meet Mo Shi's gaze. It was as if they were afraid that they would anger Mo Shi with a single glance. This was a powerful existence with a level 5 mutated wild beast. Wouldn't it be courting death if they provoked him? Mo Shi's gaze finally landed on the referee below the arena. You can announce the results. Only then did the referee come back to his senses, his face a little ashamed. From the moment the first mutated wild beast was summoned, he had already chosen to leave the arena. Until now, this was a little dereliction of duty, but he was also helpless. After all, the strength of these two wild beasts far exceeded his strength, and the battle between these two was far from what he could control. He could only try to stay as far away as possible to avoid being affected by the battle between these two. At this moment, when he heard Mo Shi's words, he wiped away his sweat. Nodding awkwardly, he came to the arena. Jumping over the scattered flesh and blood on the ground, he came to Mo Shi. Then he looked at Zhao Huan's corpse, and his gaze returned to Mo Shi. The champion of this martial arts tournament has been decided. World Society's leader, Mo Shi. Everyone present was still in a daze. The ferocious mutated wild beast in the arena made them very flustered. Seeing this, the referee smiled at Mo Shi. That, Leader Mo, can you temporarily put away your summoned beast? Mo Shi nodded and moved his mind. The sea dragon clone disappeared instantly. The referee was slightly stunned. This was much easier than when Zhao Huan summoned his beast just now. When Zhao Huan summoned his beast, it was as if he was constipated and took a long time to summon it. And whether Mo Shi summoned it or put it away, it was all in an instant. It wasn't until the sea dragon clone disappeared from the arena that everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. That mutated desolate beast gave off an extremely oppressive feeling. Apart from those who were desolate hunters and above, who were barely able to withstand it, everyone else was terrified. It was as if he was walking beside the mouth of a giant beast. At this moment, the people from the World Society couldn't help but applaud. The little monk put his palms together and closed his eyes. Just like his master, he piously chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha, boss is awesome. Emma and Happy held each other's hands tightly. Emma had never doubted that Happy could become the champion. Happy, on the other hand, was constantly on tenterhooks. As the saying goes, concern leads to confusion. During the battle between Mo Shi and Zhao Huan, she had been holding Emma's hand tightly. At this moment, his palms were sweating. Seeing that Mo Shi had won the championship, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. As for the other hunters, they were a little worried. However, they still had some understanding of Mr. Mo's strength. At this moment, it was reasonable to see Mr. Mo win the championship. With their applause, the audience also applauded. However, because Mo Shi had killed the Holy Virgin of the White Lotus Society, he was already unpopular. Now, he had brutally killed a summoner, and it was still a woman. This made him even more unpopular. Therefore, the applause at the scene was a little sparse. Mo Shi didn't care about this. They wanted to kill him, but they were not strong enough and were killed by him instead. There was nothing wrong with this. The only thing he cared about was the championship's reward. At this moment, after the referee announced the champion, he turned to look at the 10 big shots on the rostrum. As for the 10 big shots, they looked at each other. None of them seemed to be willing. After all, Mo Shi was unpopular. The 10 of them were unwilling to let Mo Shi obtain the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield, regardless of whether it was for personal or for the benefit of their own forces. However, they didn't dare to offend the military big shots. Therefore, everyone looked at Lu Shuming. One of the big shots said, "Commander Lu, what do you think?" Lu Shuming laughed and said, The military's attitude has always been very clear. We are only here to watch the competition. We will not participate in anything related to the competition. When the 10 big shots heard this, they looked at each other again. In the end, the village chief of the corpse village, who was ranked first, said slowly, "In my opinion, although Leader Mo is cruel and merciless, it is really worrying to give him the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. However, the organizing committee of the martial arts tournament is made up of the senior members of the various sections. We can't go back on our words. Therefore, we can't give him any less of the rewards. However, if the World Congress really does evil in the future and runs rampant like the evil sects and demons, then all of our forces have the responsibility to eliminate them." After that, he cupped his hands to the military and said, "If they are too strong and we can't do anything to them, I hope Commander Lu can lend a hand." His words sounded dignified. Even Lu Shuming didn't have anything else to say. The other big shots were also reluctant to give the rewards to Mo Shi. However, with Lu Shuming here, they didn't dare to go against Mo Shi too openly. The Saintess, the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, saw that everyone was reluctant. She took the initiative and said, "The village chief is right. Then, let me and the village chief give the rewards to Leader Mo." Everyone was stunned. There was a hint of admiration on their faces. Soon, the referee acted as the temporary host and said, "Then, next, the village chief of the corpse village and the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society will give the rewards to our champion." Bai Lianhua got up and took the incomplete dragon vein. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot. Her body was like a cloud as she floated into the arena. She reached out and handed the incomplete dragon vein to Mo Shi and said solemnly, "Leader Mo, with your talent, your achievements in the future will far surpass us. However, your murderous aura is too strong. I hope you can restrain yourself and treat others with kindness. If you do, you will definitely become a grandmaster in the future." Seeing this, everyone on the spectator stand was full of admiration. The Saintess of the White Lotus Society was killed, and the Holy Mother wants to give this guy an award. If it were me, I would be lucky if I didn't attack him on the spot. Why give him an award? What do you know? The Holy Mother is using her own actions to influence him. I hope he can walk on the right path in the future. The Holy Mother is really great. Apart from the Holy Mother, I'm afraid no one else can do this. Of course. Otherwise, how can she become the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society? I love her. I'm a fan now. Mo Shi saw this and sneered in his heart. This woman, with this wave of coquettish actions, attracted a lot of fans. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.